State lawmakers back at it today for just, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They got 4 more days. 4 more days. I did the German thing. 4 more days of session. All right, so that's all they've got left scheduled. Will they extend it? Who knows? But a lot going on. I'm Greg Bishop with Springfield's Morning News. 7-11, 39 degrees. Keep in mind, the National Weather Service says there's going to be some heavy storms tonight. And here's a quote: an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. So you're going to see flooding later on in the next couple of days as well because of continued rain. Showers likely today. The high of 60. All right, let's get into what happened at the Illinois Statehouse. Today, Governor J.B. Pritzker is expected to sign a bill that gives COVID-19 leave as administrative leave to vaccinated school staff, not to the unvaccinated school staff. So it'll be interesting to see some of his remarks there. But that's one of the issues with the COVID-19 policy that state lawmakers have taken up. Here's another issue that state lawmakers have taken up and now passed out of both chambers nearly unanimously. It's a bill to protect visitation rights for senior citizens who are being in a nursing home setting and not able to see their loved ones. This, of course, was something during the pandemic that led to a lot of families not being able to see their loved ones. And Senate Bill 1405 ultimately says that requires health facilities to ensure that patients are allowed to have at least one visitor in the event of a disaster proclamation. So this measure passed the Senate unanimously several weeks ago. But yesterday, it was brought up on the House floor with a Republican supporting it and found a lot of support, bipartisan support from across the spectrum. But there were some questions and some concerns. State Representative Carol Ammons said that the governor should be allowed to outlaw visits if, for instance, there's a pandemic, for example.
The governor has to have the ability and the authority to make the decision that is in the best interest of all the people of the state. And in this case, this will usurp that authority.
So, again, the debate went on with State Representative Charlie Meyer actually chiming into the House virtually yesterday, saying that family members should be allowed to be present at a loved one's final moments.
Say that final goodbye. That's what this bill is about. It's not about fighting the governor's power. It's so that these families can have their loved ones die with dignity.
State Representative Mary Flowers also chiming on this bill, talking about how it's not up to the government to say whether or not she can see her family, especially her mother, who she says nearly died to give birth to her, and she should be able to go see her mom and take that risk on herself if it is such a risk. Here's Mary Flowers from yesterday.
And I don't think anybody should ever stand in my way or your way or anyone else's if we want to get our loved ones out of a place that is unsafe.
So the bill's sponsor in the House, Republican State Representative Chris Boss, he said that the state has to learn from the mistakes it's made in the past or else shame on us.
And if we don't take the steps now moving forward to look back and make adjustments where we need to make adjustments, like this bill, so family members are not dying alone, shame on us.
So again, just one of the bills that passed both chambers. It'll be interesting to see ultimately what Governor J.B. Pritzker's response to that is, because it seems to be, though the sponsors say it's not about the governor's COVID-19 management, this is one of those issues where a lot of people had loved ones in state facilities, long-term care facilities, or other types of nursing home settings that they couldn't visit. And just the stories are just tragic, absolutely horrifying to hear about how they couldn't have a loved one at their bedside in their final days out of concerns of COVID-19, while you had vendors coming in and going out, bringing in goods, going out, staff coming in and going out, but the family members weren't allowed. So we'll see what ultimately happens with that particular measure that passed both chambers. But you also had a variety of other things going on at the Illinois Statehouse, including the Senate advancing legislation that got a lot of pushback from members of the housing provider community and a lot of real estate agents as well. This happened late Friday, but it was something that I think raises a lot of questions. Here is State Senator Robert Peters talking about the measure and, in particular, the importance of the measure when it comes to trying to prevent homelessness.
As we know, right, it's been a very difficult 2 to 3 years. You know, after a difficult 2 to 3 years and people going through so much, what are we doing to make sure to make their life just a little bit easier?
So he continues to promote that measure, but others were concerned, including State Senator Jason Barackman Friday on the Senate floor, saying that this measure goes a little too far. And what the measure does is it says that a housing provider or a property owner who rents it out cannot discriminate on the source of income, and that includes whether or not that potential renter is part of the Section 8 federal housing program. So here's State Senator Jason Barackman chiming in a bit on that. And fire.
I would say that this is a dramatic shift in public policy for the state of Illinois. It's going to have a detrimental effect to the very people that the legislation is intended to serve. And for those reasons, I would encourage a no vote. Thank you.
I think that measure is also on its way to the governor. But again, we're in this season here, and I got to double check all these bills, so don't quote me on this. But we're at a season here where a measure passes the House, gets to the Senate. The Senate might amend that, and then they have to pass it back to the House for concurrence. Or the Senate passes a measure to the House, and then the House passes the same measure, right? So, I mean, we're at this time of the year where legislative session's almost done. But there's a lot of proposals flying around. One is, of course, the tax relief that was revealed Friday. We may hear more about that. I expect the governor may be asked about that at some point. Does he support the idea of this package of tax relief that Democrats are offering up, including freezing the grocery tax of 1% or freezing the looming increase in the state gas tax that hasn't even kicked in yet? So the governor at a bill signing today, I imagine, is going to be asked about some of that. But another round of proposals here, this time from Democrats, senators, and representatives, and they laid out what they say is a package of bills that's meant to support law enforcement. So here is State Representative Dave Vella, a Democrat from Rockford, State Senator Scott Bennett, Democrat from Champaign, and State Representative Natalie Manley, a Democrat from Joliet, along with Illinois Sheriff's Association's Jim Kychek and the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police Executive Director Ed Wojcicki. So this is just a smattering of the different measures that they have proposed here and the police group's reaction to those proposals. And it's right here with Springfield's Morning News.
One, it starts looking at new ways of training by using our community colleges. The state of Illinois has some of the best community colleges in the world. Those community colleges can be used to not only bring people from our community into the public safety space, but also create a more diverse pool for people to go into policing. We are creating a task force to look at why people are leaving the police departments and what we can do to keep them. You know, we have our own ideas, but these things always have to evolve. There's going to be grants, there's going to be other things.
The lawmakers and advocates here today acknowledge that Illinois must support our police and law enforcement officers. And we hope these meaningful bills and reforms will improve our criminal justice system.
The Department of Human Services shall establish and administer an off-hours child care grant program to provide grants to licensed child care facilities to expand their program of services to include off-hours, night, or sleep time for children.
Law enforcement agencies across Illinois are facing significant challenges in recruitment and retention. Our statewide average for vacancies right now is approximately 20%. This includes dispatchers, correctional officers, deputies, officers, and sheriffs. In this past year alone, we've lost 18 sheriffs. Demands and expectations on law enforcement continue to increase. Unfortunately, the funding to support these new demands has not always coincided with those new responsibilities.
This does address some of those concerns because it addresses mental health, it addresses recruitment and retention, and our package was large, and I'm pleased to see that these legislators have picked up on some of our ideas and are running with it.
Again, that's just some of the law enforcement groups supporting this package of bills from Senate Democrats and Senate and House Democrats. They did not have any Republicans there, but Republicans did respond to this package of bills, saying that it looks like the Democrats are trying to rewrite history. I think that's a direct quote from the House Minority Leader, Jim Durkin. But some of the headlines of these bills, I mean, it's like 8 different bills or so. Police retention and recruitment package looks to somehow have training done at community colleges and different types of task force to evaluate that. You've got another bill here that would allow for shift workers to get certain kind of grants for daycare. So first responders also would be included in that. Law enforcement, mental health. It would provide grants for law enforcement to get mental health treatment. Law enforcement funding would create more funding opportunities for Illinois law enforcement. Another measure would extend the sunset on eavesdropping and what kinds of conversations law enforcement can ultimately record when it comes to drug and sex offenses, for instance. Also, another one that would require that all sheriffs in the state have to get at least 80% of the pay for their state's attorney. So trying to bring some equity into the pay for being sheriff. You also have another measure here, mental health and substance use prevention funding and funding for body cameras. So a lot of different proposals there. Just part of another package of bills that we'll see, obviously, before the end of session at the end of the week. But what is not going to be happening at the Statehouse? Are they going to not address, say, House Speaker Michael Madigan, former House Speaker, now indicted House Speaker? Are they going to address any of the situations surrounding him? We'll touch on that coming up next year. With Springfield's Morning News, I'm Greg Bishop. All right, showers likely today, with the National Weather Service saying an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. Former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan's getting $7,100 a month in a taxpayer-funded pension. Estimated he's going to get close to $3 million over the lifetime of that pension, as, of course, he's in Tier 1. He's been around since, the mid-70s or something. He was Speaker of the House for all but 2 years, from 1983 to 2021. He's also the chairman of the Democratic Party of Illinois. Apparently, he's still involved in politics despite facing 22 charges. He's still listed on the Democrat Central Committee's website as a Central Committeeman for the 13th Ward, where it was reported over the weekend out of a news station in Chicago that he was taking part in political conversations and strategy for the upcoming elections, the June primary and the November election. But he faces 22 federal corruption charges, including racketeering, bribery, and extortion. But he's still getting that pension, $7,100 a month. It's expected to increase next year. Should he still get that pension? And that's a question I don't think that Illinois lawmakers at the Statehouse are going to tackle. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop. Now, 7:30, I do want to get to this really quick, though, before news about State Representative Amy Ellick. She is fighting to get her bill heard that would essentially suspend a retired lawmaker's taxpayer-funded pension if they are charged with a crime that's associated with their time in office. I connected with State Representative Amy Ellick briefly yesterday. Here's some of what she had to say about her bill.
House Bill 5737 suspends a lawmaker's pension payments that they may be receiving if they are charged or indicted with a felony related to their service. It's important that we recognize that there are indicted lawmakers that may be receiving very lucrative pension payments, including former Speaker Michael Madigan, $7,100 a month. So my constituents are rightly upset that he could go on to receive that pension payment, drag out his court case for a very long time, and still be receiving those pension payments. So this bill just is an aim to suspend those benefits pending the outcome of the case, and it makes sure that lawmakers are not unnecessarily delaying their case and then being able to receive very large payments. Corruption is rampant in Illinois. Taxpayers know that. They're just very upset that people continue to get these lucrative pension payments and basically are defrauding the taxpayers as they've performed their public service. Well, there's very, very much that needs to still happen in Illinois, because obviously what we've done so far is not discouraging enough to corrupt politicians that continue to infiltrate politics in Illinois. If they are found not guilty, they will receive their pension payments back. So I think that it definitely puts them on notice, though, that we're not going to be accepting of unnecessary delays to cases just just so that they can keep receiving a paycheck from the state.
So again, that was State Representative Amy Ellick, a Republican from Fosterburg, saying that she's working to get more support. She expects Republicans to jump on board. Will Democrats support the measure? Will this type of thing advance? And would it be a deterrent for anybody who's trying to conduct themselves in a corrupt manner from keeping themselves from conducting themselves in a corrupt manner? So we'll see just how far that goes, if it goes anywhere before the end of legislative session, which again is Friday.